Hi friends, Angie Power Disney again, ploughing on in the midst of chaos. Part 3 of Fiona Barnett's very brave 2019 book, Eyes Wide Open. Let's just continue, and I'll put this on a playlist. So we go share screen, we're recording. I think the AI picks up names because the last recording I did got swiped, presumably for vetting, but then it reappeared. So that was encouraging. And if it doesn't stay up on YouTube, I'll put it on BitChute. So we'll continue here. This is where we ended. So this is controversial. So many Christians are brokenhearted about this. You know, so many heroes fall in this journey to truth. So, and these are the words of Fiona Barnett, which I'm reading. I'll speak when I can corroborate, and otherwise I'll just narrate. So CIA, Billy Graham, this is Fiona talking. I published a draft of this Watergate was Pedagate chapter on my blog in 2018. It proved popular. Watergate was Pedagate is the best thing I ever read, one reader commented. My article caused great controversy, particularly among Southern Baptist Billy Graham worshippers, who told me I was the talk of many a Sunday table. I'm just going to make this a bit bigger for easy reading. Here we go. Okay, yeah, it's true. Many Christians were very disturbed about this, and some Christians have lashed out at Fiona because she has named Hillsong, and she distrusted Russ Dizdar, and she named Billy Graham and Richard Nixon and possibly Ronald Reagan. It's like it's not an easy journey. We're not always right with our opinions, but Frozen Memory is backed up with research and evidence that lines up. The thing I want to say is something that really resonates with me. Fiona spoke her truth, her memories, and Steve McMurray, an amazing, dedicated researcher, checked out what she was saying and came up fact, corroborate. Yep, timeline fits, location fits, geography fits, everything fits. And to some extent, Kathy Morgan did that for me. I would just speak and she would do the research and that was this project, that project, Rothschilds, whoever, military funding here, corroborated there. It's just, and that's very, very powerful. It's very powerful. So let's carry on. And we're not always right. If it's an opinion, we're open to being wrong. If it's a memory, I would suggest more likely to be true. And of course, we all dream about more coming forward to corroborate, because it's very easy to fall into the narrative that you're crazy. That didn't happen. My most well-known abuser that I recall photographically and frozen memory-wise is Lord Bramall in a hunt in Wiltshire when I was about 8 or 9. And I'm sad Esther Baker never got justice. I'm glad she got exposure in 60 Minutes. But I think most of all what we want is to be believed. Justice would be a cherry on the cake. So here we are, CIA, Billy Graham. Fiona says, and she says, my article called, Money at Sunday Table. Photographs published by Billy's son, Franklin Graham, on social media, showing him proudly dining on what he described as killer donuts at Voodoo Donuts in Portland, added weight to my allegation that Billy Graham was a multi-generational Luciferian pedophile. That happened, folks. That happened. Many concluded that Franklin Graham posted his tweet as a cult threat against me, says Fiona, in direct response to my articles exposing his Freemason father. Conservative Christians found it inappropriate for an evangelical preacher to dine at an establishment that sold donuts decorated with encircled pentagrams and which featured Jesus Christ crucified on a penis and testicle-shaped donut called Cock and Balls. My articles caused one elderly Baptist to cut the Billy Graham Foundation from her will. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. The CIA intervened to protect their agent, Billy Graham. One of my key perpetrators, U.S. Army Psychological Operations expert Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino, weighed in on an orchestrated international effort to discredit me. Of course he did. Another perpetrator, Bond University lecturer Katerina Fritzon, responded to my allegations on official Bond University letterhead. The written responses of my two perpetrators mirrored each other in their accusation that I was a crazy fantasist. Of course they did. Yet people typically ignore crazy fantasists. People respond to someone who's swaying public opinion and who threatens to expose their cult involvement. Only the most desperate and dumb perpetrators respond personally in writing. After this umpteenth attack on my credibility failed, the fool who published both responses subsequently begged social media sharers to delete Luciferian priest Michael Aquino's email to him before he disappeared from the internet. And Michael Aquino disappeared from the planet. Team Aquino's angle was to focus on whether Rothstein had personally investigated Billy Graham, and they staged a phone interview with the retired detective. I subsequently phoned Rothstein's home. His wife, who had warmly welcomed Aquino's lackey, was cold and short with me. I phoned Rothstein's mobile. How did you get this number? Rothstein asked defensively. It was the same number Aquino's lackey called him on. It's plastered all over the internet, I responded. You were tricked. A recording of your conversation with Aquino's lackey is everywhere. I thought what you're doing is admirable, he lamented. Can't you just tell people an old man got it wrong? No, I could not. To clarify, Rothstein never told me he personally worked on an investigation into Billy Graham. Rothstein spoke of Billy Graham in the context of having heard about the preacher's paedophile antics from somewhere within his network of associates, whose job it was to investigate VIP paedophile rings. We never discussed the source of this information or whether it came from his own NYPD organization or from external agencies like the FBI or his journalist contacts. He simply immediately and emphatically asserted to me that he and his colleagues heard lots about Billy Graham's paedophile involvement. I am not the first to publicly accuse Billy Graham of being a CIA agent, Freemason, and rapist. MKUltra victim Kathleen Sullivan, who wrote Unshackled, a survivor's story of mind control, said he raped her. Former high-ranking Freemason James Shaw described how 33rd degree Freemason Billy Graham was present at his own 33rd degree initiation ritual. Time magazine reported the CIA funded Billy Graham's 1967 Latin American crusade under a CIA cutout, the US National Student Association, which also financed the National Council of Churches, Harvard Law School, and AFL-CIO affiliates. The New York Times picked up the story. See, the research is just superb, guys. You can't fight with this. The Rothstein incident is a fine example of the tactics employed by CIA paid social media trolls. They search hard for inconsistencies and try to discredit and dismiss my entire testimony based on one small detail. I spent 5 years on the internet disproving every accusation. It's so exhausting, Fiona, isn't it? I don't even know if it's worth it. Every time I successfully defended myself, the CIA paid internet trolls ignored their defeat and moved directly on to their next attempt. Yeah, I've never had an apology from Hoaxted, even though they've been proved liars over and over and over again. That is a CIA tactic and the same thing a courtroom lawyer is trained to do. These CIA social media trolls are trained in public persuasion tactics based on social psychology, crowd psychology, and bystander effects. We should call it the crucify principle. You know, when Pontius Pilate was saying, I see no fault in Jesus, and, you know, I can release him. You've got, you know, you can ask me to release somebody. And they're like, no, release Barabbas, crucify, crucify, crucify. It's like that insane crowd phenomenon, you know. Instead, they would come to me and demand an answer to every false accusation, no matter how absurd. Absurd, yeah. That is another reason I ditched social media, people's apathy. To most, I became a source of entertainment, with people watching how I fared in the attacks. Oh, wow. Like Romans watching Christians being fed to lions in the Colosseum. Wow. The CIA will do the same with this book. Focus on discrediting my entire 160,000 plus words with one stupid point that I do not clarify sufficiently. James Rothstein told me that during his investigations, he became aware of an identical child sex trafficking ring in Australia, which involved our prime ministers. Regarding this matter, Rothstein did clarify that he had not directly investigated the Australian paedophiles himself, but that an Australian, sorry, I just went too far, intelligence officer named Peter Osborne knew the details. Rothstein confirmed that Australian politicians and other VIPs attended international child brothels. The Black Network. Dutch banker Ronald Bernard also surfaced in the wake of the Pedogate scandal to shed further light on the people and system behind the international child trafficking network. During a series of interviews with a woman named Irma Schiffers, Bernard explained how he worked in international finance and high-end money laundering for 12 years. In that role, he discovered that political power does not reside with publicly elected representatives, but with the world's 8,000 to 8,500 wealthiest individuals who exercise power behind the scenes and who routinely manipulate the media. These, quote, elites, Bernard said, sit at the top of a power structure that resembles a pyramid. World Banking power structure, 8,000 to 8,500 wealthiest individuals, Bank for International Settlements, IMF, International Monetary Fund and World Bank, central banks, multinational companies, countries' governments. Ronald Bernard described the central banks as, quote, illegally created private banks, which oversee the commercial banking system of their respective countries. He said the wealthiest 8,000 to 8,500 people created the BIS in 1930. Since the world's richest individuals are too young to have helped establish the BIS 88 years ago, he must mean banking dynasties like the Rothschilds. Dope Incorporated, Britain's opium war against the US by a US Labour Party investigating team. Dope Inc. 1978. In a chapter called Banking and the World's Biggest Business, the book Dope Inc. 1978 lists 9 family dynasties or dynasties responsible for the modern drug industry, which, quote, is run on a single integrated world operation from the opium poppy to the nickel bag of heroin sold on an inner city corner. Quote, the names of the families and institutions are known to the history student. Matheson, Keswick, Swire, Dent, Baring, and Rothschild. Jardine Matheson, the Hong Kong and Shanghai Bank, the Chartered Bank, the Peninsula and Orient Steam Navigation Company, P&O. Britain's array of intelligence fronts ran a worldwide assassination bureau, operating through occult secret societies, the Order of Zion, Mazzini's Mafia, the Triads, or Societies of Heaven in China. We will then take a grand tour through the Anglo-Dutch offshore banking centres, watching money being laundered through Basel, Liechtenstein, Tel Aviv, and the Bahamas, tracing it carefully as it changes ownership from the mob to the Bronfmans, to British banks, to the Israeli Mossad. The Bronfmans have gone, one of them's gone to jail lately, to do with NXIVM. Finally ending up in dummy corporations to finance international terrorism and a privately owned worldwide assassination bureau. This woman's so brave. The drug industry is run as a single integrated world operation. It used to be the East India Tea Company, Prince Philip, the royals. This was their thing, opium smuggling. You know, it's just insane. Afghanistan, you know, the poppy fields. Come on, guys. Dutch origins. Ronald Bernard said the financial hierarchy he worked for originated in Holland. The Dope Inc. 1978 authors agree. The British Crown employed the Hofjuden court Jews, to financially manage their drug operation. These royal bankers migrated from Amsterdam to Britain after the 1688 revolution, during which Holland's leader conquered England and was crowned King William III. Previously, the bankers participated in the Dutch East India, Company's first opium trade expeditions, collaborated for centuries with the British Jesuits, and participated in the Jesuit Inquisition. The royal bankers were rewarded with royal bloodline wives. These bankers, including the Rothschilds, Warburgs, Oppenheimers, and Schroders, became Hitler's main financial backers, including Prescott Bush and Winston Churchill's family. Such a joke when people do the research on this. The British royal family are of German descent and changed their family name from German-sounding House of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha to English-sounding House of Windsor in 1917. Their Nazi sympathies were demonstrated in the 1933 film footage of future King Edward VIII teaching the Heil Hitler armed salute to young Queen Elizabeth, Princess Margaret, and their mother in October 1937. Abdicated Edward visited Nazi Germany, where he met Hitler, dined with Hitler's deputy, Rudolf Hess, and toured a concentration camp. The royal bankers coordinated the laundering of drug money via offshore unregulated banks, including Britain's island colonies. Hong Kong was established as the center of the global drug trade. Wow. The British Crown created the P&O shipping line specifically to transport the drugs, plus the HSBC Bank to launder the opium proceeds. I didn't know that. A portion of the drug money was laundered via legitimate, quote unquote, cash businesses like hotels, restaurants, gambling establishments, while some was channeled into blood diamonds, gold, and art. The royal family created P&O to traffic drugs and HSBC to launder drug money. I worked unwittingly for a laundering CIA bank called BCCI for almost 3 years in London in the 70s. The Hofjuden sponsored select families to run the criminal underworld and its front organizations. These families committed crimes of trafficking, extortion, and murder. The Bronfman Rothschild Finance Company is a prime example of this arrangement. The Canadian heirs to the Seagram Liquor Company were originally known as the Bronfman Gang. Wow. They made their initial fortune bootlegging alcohol and operating prostitution brothels during Prohibition, followed by trafficking cocaine and heroin. Nothing has changed. Dope Inc. 1978 named prominent families involved in the drug trade, including the Astor. Yeah, I've worked for Right Honourable John Jolliffe's wife, who is related to the Astors. Bundy, DuPont, Freeman, Kennedy, Lee, Rockefeller, Rothschild, and Russell dynasties. Fritz Springmeier added Bronfman, Cabot, Shaw, Bacon, Perkins, and Morgan to the list. He said all of these were Luciferian bloodlines. The same families are still trafficking drugs and children, as recent events indicate. In April 2019, Seagram heiress Claire Bronfman pleaded guilty to her role in a sex trafficking operation called NXIVM. Her sister and co-financer, Sarah Bronfman, was implicated but avoided charges. I think it's Claire Bronfman who's just been sent to jail for 18 years or something. In June 2019, US officials seized a cargo ship owned by JP Morgan Chase, which was trafficking 20 tons of cocaine worth $1.3 billion. NXIVM is MK Ultra. In the late 90s, Amway salesman Keith Raniere and Nancy Saltzman founded NXIVM. Raniere, who attended a Luciferian Rudolf Steiner school, modeled NXIVM on Scientology, as did Werner Erhard with Est. This is amazing. Scientology is huge, and there's connections with POTUS. Let the dog in. Come in or out, rude. Come on. No, behave. Sorry. Right. Next team is MK Ultra. Yeah, Amway's Amway. See, that's pyramid selling. I always knew that shit was wrong. Okay. And I didn't know the Rudolf Steiner schools were Luciferian, but I'm learning as we read as well. Saltzman was trained in NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, by Richard Bandler, MK Ultra perpetrator, and in hypnosis by Herbert Spiegel, US Army hypnotist and MK Ultra researcher at St. Elizabeth's Hospital. No, Ruby, sit. Who wrote the foreword to the MK Ultra classic, The Control of Candy Jones. The Bronfman sisters financed NXIVM and its subsidiaries, including the non-profit Ethical Science Foundation. They're so ironic, which came under State Attorney General investigation in 2017 for performing brain activity and other human behavioral studies. Medical doctor Brandon B. Porter conducted MK Ultra style, quote, human fright experiments, in which he hooked over 100 victims to an EEG and recorded their reaction to surprise screenings of snuff films. Oh, Jesus Christ. Sorry, God. Quote, an actual video of the horrific and brutal murders and dismemberment of 4 women by machetes and violent film clips, including a male African-American being viciously stomped by a Nazi, a conscious male being forced to eat a portion of his own brain matter, and a graphic gang rape. The New York State Office of Professional Medical Conduct initially determined Dr. Porter's behavior did not constitute medical misconduct. They caved to pressure following the high-profile NXIVM case. Back in 2013, Keith Raniere patented a device designed to measure victims' sensory responses to watching snuff films. What is wrong with these people? He labeled this, quote, determination of whether a Luciferian can be rehabilitated. Women who were not overtly traumatized by the images were considered suitable recruits and physically branded like cattle. This is NXIVM people. Their numbness at watching snuff films indicated their passivity to and suitability for sex trafficking. The mainstream media ignored the crux of the story, that NXIVM was a front for CIA child sex trafficking. NXIVM leader Raniere and his sidekick Alison Mack were originally charged with child sex trafficking. In 2019, the couple were additionally charged with child pornography. The pending counts filed on the 19th of April 2018 read 1. Sex trafficking of children by force, fraud, or coercion. 2. Conspiracy to commit sex trafficking of children by force, fraud, or coercion. And 3. Attempt to establish peonage, slavery, involuntary servitude, human trafficking. Adding weight to NXIVM posing as a, quote, legitimate front organization for child trafficking, Claire Bronfman sponsored a NXIVM subsidiary called Rainbow Cultural Garden, which operated numerous international childcare centers located in the USA, UK, Ireland, Guatemala, Spain, and Mexico. My God. Bronfman also purchased an island in Fiji, a notorious child trafficking hub. The NXIVM court case revealed the Mexican government, including their president, were involved in the operation, vindicating my 5-month 2018 online campaign to expose the Arizona-Mexican border as the main human trafficking land route involving Tucson Mayor Jonathan Rothschild, his senior police staff who were previously implicated in child trafficking in California, and a minion of NSA FBI informants with Luciferian cult connections. Wow, this is so real. This is so current. Now, I hope she's not going to slag Isaac off, but I'll read her book anyway. Isaac Cappy, who helped me expose this operation, subsequently died under suspicious circumstances in Arizona near an NSA base immediately after he reached out for help to the Clinton and CIA-linked trained assassin who hid the discovery of child trafficking camps in the Tucson desert. I wonder who she means there. She might mean, what do they call him, Saul Mansour? NXIVM bore the hallmarks of a CIA human trafficking compromise operation. The child sex trafficked children and adults, targeted influential people, including entertainers, and owned over 60 related companies, including a video department called Moving Pixels. Connections were detected between NXIVM and human trafficking mob bosses Bill and Hillary Clinton. Texts exist between Keith Raniere and Hillary Clinton. Of course they do. I think the Clinton emails are due to be released in full before the election. In the 1990s, Bill Clinton asked Keith Raniere for money because he was doing business in Arkansas. When Raniere refused, the state attorney general targeted his operation for closure. Consequently, Raniere's new NXIVM operation made illegal campaign contributions to the Clintons, so they learned their lesson. This information was revealed during Mark Vincento's testimony during the NXIVM trial, 12th of May 2019. The Octopus. Dope Inc. described the same criminal system as Ronald Barnett, who said his own laundering operation dealt with governments, multinationals, terrorist organizations, and Secret Service agencies. Intelligence agencies like the CIA, MI6, and Mossad do not serve and protect the people or country as the public expect, he explained, but are all criminal, says Fiona. All criminal organizations that trade in drugs, weapons, and children. The CIA functions as a private police force for the elite. According to Barnett, the wealthy elite control their employees through compromise and blackmail, just as James Rothstein described. There must have been some truth to the 1978 content of Dope Inc., because after its publication, the HSBC lost its license to operate in the USA. Further, the 1978 book inspired law enforcement officials to swap their assumption that drug trafficking consisted of pockets of independent criminal activity for understanding the drug industry as a global network coordinated by the CIA, with proceeds laundered through banks and funneled into the CIA's covert terrorist operations. Well, I'll leave it there for today. There's quite a lot to digest there. Some of it's new to me, most of it's not, but I'll leave that there for today. This is Fiona Barnett's book. It's free online. I'll share the PDF. If anybody wants to contribute to me doing an audio reading, that's great. And if you can't read, that's fine too. Angela Power Disney, angelascashes.org, and please pray for survivors, and especially those brave enough to name names and speak out. God bless.